Great. Hello. Really nice to see everybody. Thank you very much for coming. So I am Rebecca. I am coordinator of Herefordshire Food Alliance. I'm also, as part of my organisation Kids Kitchen, a member of Herefordshire Food Alliance. So Food Alliance is a network of groups, organisations, individuals in Herefordshire working towards a great local food economy, healthy lives, healthy communities and a healthy environment. We have farmers, food banks, restaurants, people that work in logistics, council departments as part of this alliance, and always looking to have more people on the steering team, more people signing the food charter, which has helped us to build the movement and showcase the good stuff that's already happening. We have regular events. You see this one is connecting people that want to get the food with the farmers that are producing it, hopefully in more direct selling. Okay, right. So we're going to move on now to Leslie, Glenkens Food Hub, and talk about her experience of setting up a digital selling hub for farmers. So shall I throw it straight over to you, Leslie, and you can start chatting?
Sure. Yeah. No. So I just explained the Glenkens is a very remote rural area in Dumfries and Galloway, and so I thought I looked up the stats, and because Herefordshire is not remote and rural compared to Dumfries and Galloway, so we have 150,000 people in 6,400 square kilometres. Whereas I think you have 192,000 people in only 2,180 square kilometres. So you have kind of more people in a third of the area. So we're very remote and rural. The Glenkens is kind of right in the middle of Dumfries and Galloway. It's a very kind of long county. And it's a very beautiful place, and lots of people come and retire here. And so the Glenkens Food Hub kind of started on the back of a local community action plan, which was a project that was developed to look at how best to spend the wind farm money from a wind farm in our area. And there was a section about a flourishing economic community. And within that, local food production and retail was highlighted, the lack of it, basically. So it is a big farming area, but most of it is big beef and big dairy, and it all kind of gets shipped out and probably, shipped elsewhere out of the country. But there are a lot of smallholders and some regenerative farms that are doing great things, and they need a route to market. And so the Glenkens Food Hub was initially started on the back of a farmer's market. So we do have quite a few farmers markets around here, but the footfall is very low, and the amount of food at them is very low. There's a lot of craft there, not rather than food, a lot of creative artist type things. So the Glenkens Food Hub was created by a community interest company called Propogate, who do a lot of kind of growing in the community, but also work on food networking and food policy and food education as well. And they pulled together a pilot to see if the food hub would work, and that did, and we got funding for a further 12 months. We use a software platform called the Open Food Network. It was created in Australia, but there is a group here that run the UK version who have their own food hub as well. And it's an open software platform, so it will always be available to everybody, because I think some private platforms that other food hubs have used previously have suddenly closed down and their outlet has been taken away. So the Open Food Network is a great online platform because we get lots of support from the team at Open Food Network, tech support, you get onboarding support, you get marketing support, and you get support of other food hubs and farmers that use it. So they do lots of webinars like this.
Jump in with, is there an initial cost?
There's not an initial cost to set up, just your time. And But once you start trading over £500 a month, then there is a 2% fee. So that's how they make their money, and it's pretty reasonable. And I think I've done the sums, and I don't think we could pay a software person to create an e-commerce shop and support us in the way that they do for the money that we give them with that 2%. The other fees that you do have to pay a card provider, which I think in this case is Stripe, and their fees have just gone up to 1.5% plus 20p per order. But you just need to build that into your costs.
How many producers have you got in the hub? And then how have you managed to kind of gather them all? You know, how's it been working with a bunch of producers all at once?
Yeah, so it's been really good. I mean, Abby, who started it, is a producer herself. She has quite a small market garden within the Glenkens, and she knew a few other producers, so they got together. And then through the regenerative farming network, we got to know other people who were finding ways to take their own animals to an abattoir and a butcher. So basically we started with about 10 producers, and we were lucky that there was a bit of a range. So there was veg, meat, cheese, pickles and chutneys, and a really good bakery. And the bakery is kind of a bit of a linchpin, really. It pulls it all together. So the meat is extremely popular. And we do have several meat producers. We were a bit short at first, but now we probably have a little bit too much beef. But I know you're interested in what you do when you have people with the same produce. And, you know, that there is kind of room for everybody, and they do different things. So each of them has different breeds. So we have a Galloway breeder, a Shetland breeder, and a Highland cow breeder. So they kind of have their USP. Some of them are organic certified and some aren't. And obviously when you take a cow to slaughter, there is only ever one heart and one oxtail and one of this and one of that. So those kind of things, there's a scramble to get those when they go on. But then everyone's kind of left with the mincemeat and the sausages, which sell really well anyway. So it's quite nice if one producer can't make one of the food hub dates, you know, the other ones get more sales. And what we've trying to do with the veg producers, so we have one core veg producer, but in the summer, other people that produce a lot of extra salad crops came on board, and we just asked them to either price in line or put a slightly different mix together of leaves. So the great thing about the kinds of producers that sell through food hubs is they're all in it for the good food. They're not in it for the money. So we want to collaboratively work together for what is best for all of us and for the consumer to encourage everybody to want to buy more good food, really. So this is the Open Food Network. So I will go to the products. So all the producers have kind of different technical abilities. So some we have uploaded the products for them to get them going once they got their head around how it all worked. And all but one is now up and running by themselves. So we actually buy in some veg ourselves because there isn't quite enough like potatoes and carrots and onions and things like that to satisfy demand. So basically you need to upload your produce here. You kind of edit it here. What name you put in is important because that shows on the shop front. And then you can have different weights or volumes or by item. Then you link to product categories so people can shop by category. So if people are vegetarian, they can just pick on the fruit and veggies, and they can ignore the meat. There's a room for a description, so that's where you would put your ingredients in if it's sausages or bread or something. And you upload an image as well. So then
so one of the things that takes so much time, shout if you've got any questions, anybody else. I'm I'm really interested in this. It's often, you know, you put a photo in and it goes, oh, it's too big, or it looks terrible. And I just wondered how this is for that kind of thing. Like, is it fairly forgiving with those kinds of things?
It's reasonably forgiving. Yeah, you don't want them to be too big. When people struggle, I just get them to upload their branding. And so they just upload the same image until they get their head around what the image needs to look like, and they've got enough images of everything.
Right. And so it doesn't say, oh, give me 4, you have to have 4 images of everything or anything like that.
No, you don't have to have any images, which I find frustrating because it looks better and people will buy more if there's a really nice image on there. So, you know, if you have a nice image of your beef cooked on a plate, it's probably going to sell more than if you have an image of the cold meat, you know, uncooked. And then we've kind of toyed with the idea of just having pictures of the cows because everyone likes a cow, but then there's the, you know, how people feel about, you know, where it's come from. But obviously people know, and we want them to know where it's come from and that it's a happy cow. So so yeah, so you can see here, these guys for this beef burger don't have an image in there. But they have other images here.
Managed to get the joint in.
Yeah.
That's a terrible image, which is great. I'm really happy that you can sell with terrible images.
Yeah, but the brownies, they go really well, but maybe the beef mince doesn't go so well. So this is something we're still working on, obviously with some producers. And normally producers can decide whether they want you to have access to their produce or not. So I help these guys get their products up there, and they can manage it and I can manage it as well. So whoever's coordinating the food hub can support the producers a lot if you so wish to.
So are you like, so do you have, are you like a coordinator? So you can.
I am a coordinator. I'm not a producer.
Can the walled garden fiddle about with the other people's?
No, they can only see their own produce.
Right.
So each
be a producer or a coordinator.
Yeah.
Or both, I guess. Like.
Yeah. So quite a lot of our suppliers will sell direct using Open Food Network, OFN, and they link to us and they allow us to sell their products as well.
Okay, that's really interesting. So they have their own shop, and they also can just allow you to access that, so they don't have to upload twice.
No, they don't. They just need to keep on top of their stock. So you can, I'll show you this. So basically the OFN works in order cycles. So either you can be open all the time, like a regular shop would be online, but we only open twice a month, and we open from Friday lunchtime till Tuesday lunchtime, and then the shop closes and the producers are automatically sent an email to say what has been ordered and what they need to pack and deliver into us. And then the following that Friday, we then collate all the produce, and people either come and collect it or we deliver it at the moment. So you set up an order cycle, you set up the dates that the shop's going to open. So our next one opens on the 17th of March. You select all the incoming products. So if a new producer was to
deliver them, right? That's very interesting.
So yes, so you can, new suppliers kind of find us and tag us, and then we find them and upload them onto our system. And then we give the suppliers a cut-off time when they need to have uploaded all their produce by, and then we import that into our food hub shop. And then so if people are also selling through their own shop and we take a percentage of their fees, we can adjust their products to say 10% less or 20% less, so that they go out on our food hub at the same price, but we are charged like a wholesale price. And yeah, and so we select our outgoing products, and all these delivery details are what are sent to the customer when they order. And there's various checkout options. So for us, when we first started, we had collections from the point where we were collating the orders, and then we did deliveries within the Glenkens area, because that was kind of requested and that was part of the funding application. However, now we're getting towards the end of our funding, it's not going to be economically viable for us to do as many deliveries, because some of them can cost us 20 quid and we're only charging £3 for a delivery. So what I have discovered is that most food hubs have several collection points across the area. So you would kind of go to your biggest towns or large villages where there is the most interest in your produce, and people would order and say collect on Friday lunchtimes from 1 till 2, or Saturday morning from 9 till 10, and ideally you'll get a volunteer to come and collect the orders and take them out there and chat to all the lovely customers and and develop a relationship that way. So we've just started to have collection points in different locations that are kind of a 20-minute drive away from us, just to expose ourselves to more customers.
And I think that's one of the interesting things that I'm seeing that connects sheds and digital hubs, is that obviously, there are places in Herefordshire that people are already going to vending sheds that people are already going to. These are places that, are easy to get to and have got possibly space. So, the idea that you're drawing people to that place for a group collection of something might also mean that say vending of the things that are in the shed might go up as well. So it seems like
definitely.
I'm quite interested by the order window. I think it's an interesting way of communicating how important it is to put some power in the hands of the producer. Without really saying anything, it's saying I, the producer, need to know what you're going to want so that I can harvest it and prep it.
It totally reduces food waste, particularly for the veg growers and the baker.
And does it feel like, in terms of marketing, that it actually does give people a deadline? Like as Claire said, a project needs a deadline. If you're order, you kind of need that deadline to be like, oh, it's going to do my order. So you'll kind of
and it's great to be able to remind people you've got 24 hours left, you've got a few hours left, kind of get your order in. So you can constantly contact people about it. It's amazing how many forget.
Quick question, in terms of marketing, how are you finding competing, or do you even compete with supermarkets? I mean, that's the obvious kind of place, or is it niche, or is there a broader appeal where you are for that sort of produce?
Well, we don't have Waitrose and Ocado and those kinds of things up here. It's all Asda and Tesco and Co-op. So we are a point of difference, and we appeal to the people who want climate and nature friendly food, because there's hardly any of that in this area, because there's no Riverford veg boxes, there's no Abel and Cole. Even the local greengrocer goes up to the Glasgow market and doesn't buy organic. So we are providing a point of difference, but we don't just want to be expensive organic food for middle class and wealthy people. We want to make a difference in the community, and we get involved in education for school kids, talking to them about where their food has come from and why organic is different, and about carbon footprints of food and all that kind of stuff. We have a button on the shop where people can donate to the local food bank, so the food bank gets our organic eggs which is great because you could go to Tesco's and buy those eggs for the food bank, but you know, they wouldn't be local or organic. So and
that's
we
kind of like your like the basket by the checkout.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got one of them.
Basket by the checkout. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great. And we'd also, one of my next projects is to kind of try and tap into some of this other wind farm money to get vouchers for people who maybe are struggling in the cost of living crisis, so that they can, if they want to buy organic food, they can afford to, and they can get a discount from us, and it's not, you know, like a handout. But yeah, we kind of want to keep things as affordable and accessible for as many people as possible, really. That's our ethos.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that all right? Just so I'm understanding the situation. So the orders, so you open up a window that people can make orders and producers can put their products online. People order it, and then when you open the hub for collection, do the farmers then deliver their produce to the hub?
Yes. So we try and shorten the journey as much as possible. So all our producers, apart from we buy from Organic North wholesalers, all are within a 30-mile radius of the hub.
Yeah.
And some deliver to me because I live another kind of 10 miles away from the hub. And some kind of coordinate delivery together. And so they can kind of deliver any time from when they receive their order to the morning that we start packing, just whenever ever's convenient.
They've already paid up front, so there isn't any like waste as such. E.g., if it doesn't get collected because the person just hasn't come, it can go to the food bank, or it's already been paid.
But that never happens. Yeah. So I mean, for us, buying in sacks of veg, we have some extra left over sometimes, and we donate that to the food bank.
Yeah.
And if the food bank can't use it, then somebody makes it into soup and that freezes it and it goes to the food bank.
And as a hub, do you have to, like for the environmental, so let's say you were doing bottles of milk, is that does the farmer have to stay there to make, or do you have fridges and you put it in the
We
freezer?
don't do milk.
Oh, you don't?
It's a bit of a bugbear around here because there is an organic farm called Tor Point Organic, and they have a couple of dispensers in a few villages, but it's not commercially viable for them to go further out, and I don't think we can, under food health and safety,
really
deliver
difficult.
It's not possible.
That's interesting.
It's a real shame, and we can't have raw milk up here either.
That's true. In Scotland, that's true.
But we do have the ethical dairy. Do you know?
Dairy? No, been up to see them. Really
great. Good. Okay. So obviously we have their cheese. We don't do the ice cream. Well, I'm not sure if we could get the ice cream to people in the right state. So
now it would be fine, but later.
Yes, totally.
Can you explain the wind farm money that you were talking about?
So it's managed by Foundation Scotland, who manage funds for kind of various funders. But there is a trust, the Glenkens District Trust, who accept applications for the money. So I guess the fund that you were talking about before, the Rural Prosperity Fund, it would be something similar to that. And as long as it brings some benefit and speaks to something that was in the Glenkens Community Action Plan and is going to benefit the community, then they will consider, part funding or fully funding various projects. So we're run as a social enterprise. We're not for profit. Obviously, the producers.
Sorry.
Go on.
Interesting information for the Food Alliance, I guess, or for any companies, farmers that wanted to work together, is that there are some environmental pots. So Glencora is a kind of an environmental funder in Herefordshire, possibly beyond, I'm not sure. And actually there's a case to be made for that kind of working together and keeping produce local and explaining things as a result of it, and having a hub that is doing a bit doing more than just selling, would maybe be a
yeah, we want to change the food system.
Yeah.
And that deserves funding, and you know, to get up and running is hard, and a business would be funded by, you know, a loan from a bank or something, but you know, we are funded because we're a community interest company, or you can set it up as a charity or whatever.
Really interesting. What were you thinking as well? Any other questions for Leslie?
So I think that one of the main benefits of us working together is the producers we have producer meetings where everyone gets together and we share food, and they get to talk about what they do and what they're struggling with and who might be able to, has been in the same situation, and they support each other. They don't have to stand in a cold market place on a Saturday afternoon giving up their time, so they really love that. For the very small ones, you know, it's kind of doubled and tripled their turnover, and it's just a nice add-on for the bigger ones like ethical dairy. And you know, we can get this message out there hopefully more easily than some of the smaller producers and the regenerative farmers who, you know, have such time-consuming job running their place as it is, and can't afford to employ a marketing company. So we kind of do that for them. But yeah, and everyone that buys from us just loves it. They're absolutely smitten with it. So it's great. They just need to spread the word a bit faster.
Well, we're a bit far away to be helping you spreading the word. But, it's funny how long, how well, I've got somebody who's already a great fan just down the road.
Yeah, well, it's a great place to come on holiday. You can come and stay at the Glenkens campsite and tie in with one of our order cycles.
Claire's got one more question, which we'll do Claire's question and then we'll stop for a break. So how long have you been running?
Well, in the current capacity, we started in May last year. So just, 10 months. But there was a trial prior to that that was attached to the market. But yeah, in our current capacity, and for me coordinating it, since May.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, and been really useful. Infrastructure wise, you know, it could be just a locked box with a combination padlock, or there is so much more. So does anybody want to start us off really with your experiences and what you think that Herefordshire needs in terms of infrastructure for keeping good local food here?
Do you have many of the kind of honesty boxes at the ends of driveways from farms that sell honey and eggs and stuff?
I would say there's quite a few.
Yeah, because once people kind of get used to those, that's kind of a way into bigger things, because there's a lot of that in this area because everyone's got chickens.
But I think also people want convenience, and this ties in with you, Ollie, is somebody doesn't necessarily want to drive to one place to get their carrots and then another place to drive to get their milk and another place to get their, you know, meat. And that's where the Food Hub works really well, because you can do it all online. It's one space and then they just go to one place and get it. And I think people, even though they want that contact with the farm, if it's more of a day out or, you know, they're going on a bike ride and they want to get some, but to get those regular customers that's what they rely on for their weekly shop, that's where convenience is key.
Yeah, I'm going to second that for sure. You know, I live in Ledbury, and I don't know if you're familiar, Leslie, but it's about 10,000 people, market town. It's actually smaller than Bromyard, where Claire has one of her sheds. But for me, it is about convenience. I can walk into town. I can walk to Tesco into town, really, like 500 meters away. There's an organic shop in town, which I often go to. But, you know, if there was something halfway between here and Bromyard that sold amazing vegetables or something, I don't know how many regular sort of consumers like me would actually go do that, even though, you know, good food is something I very much support. I was really interested, Leslie, to hear you talking about the times when the Food Hub was open, and it's only every 2 weeks. And I think that there from a consumer's point of view, there is a need for perhaps education and a change of how I approach Wednesday mornings. Get up, have breakfast, go do my shopping, then I'm done for a week. That's how I've always approached it. And changing that's tricky, but I think I would do if there was enough that was convenient enough, that's close enough. And infrastructure wise, having someplace, a hub or something that was delivered more regularly than the once a month market.
Yeah, getting people in is hard, but once you've got them and they've got used to the cycle, and we would do it more often if we had more produce and more customers. Because weekly would be ideal, but because most of our produce is meat that you put in the freezer, people would just stop buying it because they don't need it every week.
Anyway, that was just my consumer input.
No, I think that's important.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ruth. Were you gonna?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, Alice, I know you're very busy at the moment, and it's nice to see you. But I don't know whether would you be a place that Paul could get veg from when you're back up and running? I was going to mention Little Markle Farm, which is 5 minutes from Ledbury, but then so there's a few different places, and then Alice, I think you do stuff at
I do drop-offs. I run a veg box scheme through the Open Food Network, and do have a drop-off point in Ledbury, but it's never taken off really. Maybe that's because I haven't done any advertising whatsoever.
This is one of the things I think that there's a potential for with selling collectively, because I think that getting the word out is really, 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 really hard, and it is a completely different skill set to growing food. So and the more that we can all do to do that for each other and on behalf of the people that make the food that will save our planet is the better, really. I think that's a very interesting kind of perspective, because and I think there's so people in rural Herefordshire who drive a lot of those roads where there is a vending machine see them, and then the people who are more centred into towns probably don't see them so much. Collectively selling your wares, I think, is one of the things that I find useful about the Glenkens model. The model of doing it online is the fact that you do a lot of, the digital world does a lot of the work, the hard work for you of gathering, putting it, adding it, doing, and then being able to put it in one place for the consumer. But I think that once you try to get that towards the consumer in some way, you then turn your consumer into a partner in what you do. So that's really the mission of loads of people that are selling in that way. And I think that's probably been the theme of everything tonight. Is Heather sat next to me now, that's why I keep turning around like that if you can have some kind of space, people will then read and find out and talk to you, and then they won't be a consumer anymore, because they're just the person that wants to buy your stuff and is like a partner in what you're doing. I don't know if there's any other thoughts around how, Alice, whether you've got any thoughts around how you think it might work, if it was different. I know you work, I don't want to also put you on the spot. I know you have sold through, you do sell through Open Food Network, and how you feel about doing it with other people.
No, it'd be great. We're just because I also sell through at Ludlow Farmers Market, and they're just setting up a hub up there, so I'll be linked up to that. I think once you're on it, it's really easy to then be part of several different hubs, if that is around in the area. It'd be great, and it is really easy to use, the Open Food Network.
Was that your experience? So because you were on, then when Ludlow said they were going to do their thing, was it really just a case of you going, tick,
making sure I had my quantities right, because you don't want to sell
That's the fear. That would be my fear, that I'd got it all wrong, and then I've got 3K of squash that I'm not able to.
Yeah, we did have somebody do it once with us who had a glut, and they thought no one will buy as many aubergines as we have, and we sold out totally, and we had to cancel orders because they didn't have enough aubergines, because we sold like, I don't know, 12 kilos of aubergines or something. Great.
So, I'm interested in how easy it is to turn into a hub. So I think that's one of the things that perhaps we can take forward as the Food Alliance, is encourage people to put their stuff on as the Open Food Network, and then making a hub would really not be that much of a step. We could almost use it as a bit of a market research as to who's out there and who'd want to sell. And then it's really then just a case of say, I mean, the lovely thing about Ledbury is they've got Ledbury Food Group, who are just so into supporting local food, you know, and quite often they're looking for ways to do that. So that's maybe a possibility. If we encourage people to use Open Food Network, then it's not that much of a step to create more of a kind of a critical mass.
Leslie, can I ask you a question about the Food Hub? Do you ever reject produce? Like, let's say you get some more beef people coming in and you're like, look, this is just competing against each other like too much. What is the situation when you get that?
We're all obsessed with the beef competition, Leslie.
No, it is the main thing that bothers me at the moment. I was a bit bothered about salad leaves at one point, but that sorted itself out. Our main problem, I would say no to another beef supplier, and I would say, look, we'll put you on the waiting list, and if somebody stops doing it for any reason, then you'd be the first person we get in touch with. But we have a good food criteria, so if people don't fulfill our criteria for kind of farming in a sustainable way or using sustainable ingredients, then we've said no to people that don't fulfill that. That's the kind of main thing.
Leslie, can you send me your good food criteria, please?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Leslie, oh, sorry.
Perfect.
Sorry. Just another question for you, Leslie. Sorry.
That's fine. It's good. All good.
Yeah. I did some practicalities on the actual where the hub is located and where everything is delivered to, and like how that relationship, like where is it? How did that come about?
Well, it's been really hard in our area because there are so few places within the Glenkens. So if that hadn't been the stipulation, because the wind farm just supports that particular geographical area, and that was kind of built into the funds from the wind farm. So we were kind of operating out of a corner of somebody's shed, which used to be a garden centre, but we're just about to move into the local community centre because a new group have taken it over, and there's kind of a back room which needs a load of work doing to it, but at least it's not got birds flying about in it. So we're moving into there instead, and they've got a little annex on the back where we've got a key safe, so we can leave a key in there so the producers can access it whenever they want to put stuff in the fridge and freezer. That's been quite important, but that has been tricky, and I think it works ideally if there is a producer who has a shed that you can use, because particularly for us, as we only did it once a month to start with, and now every 2 weeks, we only need it for a few hours every couple of weeks. So we don't want to rent a whole unit, for months at a time. So finding a corner of a shed is quite useful, but obviously ideally without any pests. but it's very minimal. I don't think EHO will ever visit us, and it's not like we're cooking food, we're just putting food in boxes, and it says wash before use. So how did I've never done anything that has had to go into the that I've had to do environmental health paperwork for, but like what do you have to do? Didn't really do very much to start with, and then because I come from a food manufacturing background, I said I think we need to. Well, I have a food hygiene certificate.
Yeah.
and we take temperatures of stuff as it goes into the fridge and then out to the consumer. So all you've got to do is monitor your temperatures of your chilled and frozen goods, and that's it, really. And they were very vague about, because I was really paranoid about frozen food just sat around for ages, and basically, so they said, you know, there is no kind of limit, really. It's within a few hours, within reason, as long as it's still frozen. So we kind of wrap our frozen food in wool cool with a freezer block, you know, for a couple of hours before people pick it up, and then I tell people if stuff is as defrosted to treat it as fresh, basically. But that's all we've come across. But we don't have ice cream and we don't have milk, so it's fairly straightforward, really.
As a producer, I would be very keen to host a hub like that, because I think it draws people to your farm. And if it's milk, then it's like, that's all certified. So then the veg people and the meat people can bring. And I think it's really important that each farm focuses on what they do best. And so it's not like, I think then that's when it brings it in. And that's like you, Ollie, it's like you do the vegetables, that's what you do. You wouldn't want to start processing milk and stuff, because that just becomes a logistical nightmare. Whereas actually, if everyone does something really well, but even for twice a month, I mean, we have different events here, and the sales for coffee and milk just spike when people are become more aware of it. And I think that's how you get yourself sort of out there more. So yeah, Ruth, if you want to set up a hub, we got a barn.
Yeah, you just need a few tables and a fridge and a freezer.
Ollie, you can bring the carrots and we're sorted.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I've got a friend who lives near Ledbury, I'll tell her.
Perfect. That's dealt with then. That's done.
Great.